ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Hari Om, salutations to all. So yesterday we saw that how the experience of the self, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, through the Nirvikalpa Samadhi is a very important aspect without which the sense of ego, the individuality does not go even for a person who is very knowledgeable. Our 343 said, Arudha Shaktehe Ahamo Vinashaha Kartunna Shakya Sahasapi Panditaihi. Ye Nirvikalpakhya Samadhi Nischalaha. Only those who are able to experience this Nirvikalpa Samadhi through continuous practice of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Antarananta Bhava hi Vasanaha. Because Vasanas are very, very strong, this person is not able to experience this dissolution of this I. But through repeated practice of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, this will happen. Now, why is that Ahamkar so strong? That is explained in the next verse. In the previous verse, it is said Vasana is the cause. Many, many lives we have cultivated a lot of Vasanas, and that has strengthened the ego. Now, the cause of that also is being described in 344. Aham buddhyaiva mohinya yojayitva vritirbalat vikshepa shakti purusham vikshepayati tadgunaihi. So he says here that there are these two powers, what we had spoken about, Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti. The veiling power is Avarana Shakti, projecting power is Vikshepa Shakti. So what happens? Aham buddhya eva mohinya yojayitva avriter balat. So first is the power of veiling. The truth gets veiled completely. And once the truth is veiled, that I don't know who am I, then Vikshepa Shakti Purusham Vikshepayati Tadgunaihi. Then the projecting power projects. You are Mr. So and so, you are tall, you are dark, you are young, you are happy, you are sad, you are this, you are that. The projection happens. And so these two powers strengthen this ego. They are actually the cause by which the ego idea arises also, and then it is sustained and strengthened also. So this Vikshepa Shakti along with this Avarana Shakti will confuse a person. Aham buddhyaiva mohinya. The main sentence here is Vikshepa Shaktihi Vikshepayati Purusham. So a person gets confused completely because of these two powers. So this is brought out again. Earlier it was explained, but again this comes back because all said and done, one wants only to handle the effects of Vikshepa Shakti. See, Avarana Shakti is to veil the truth where I don't know who am I. But after that veiling happens, then there is a projection of the entity, Mr. So and so. That is Vikshepa Shakti. Now, what that entity is going through, anger, fear, greed, jealousy, depression, sorrow, anxiety, or the other side, elation, jubilation, success, joy, other side. Both these, this entity is going through. Most of the time, our mind is stuck in handling what the entity is going through. Nobody questions, is the entity real? And if the entity is not real, then what is real? That is the third level. So one is actually caught up not in handling these two at all. Avarana and Vikshepa are left aside. One is handling the result of the Vikshepa. Struggling with that only, anger, greed, jealousy, passion, all those things. Six vikaras one struggles with, wandering of the mind one struggles with. On the other side, all the uh, positive emotions which elate us, one struggles with those only. That's why equanimity becomes such an important criteria, that once a person becomes equanimous, then the mind is available to inquire whether this entity is even real. As of now, the understanding is this entity is real. And now what it is going through is also real. And so whatever it is going through, I am going through, because my sense of reality is associated with this entity and what it goes through. So what Vedanta tells us, if I want to study Vedanta and get into self-enquiry, not just study intellectually, what was said in the earlier verse, Panditaihi api sahasa, even with great knowledgeable people, this ahankar doesn't go, because it's very strong. Why is it strong? Because of these two. So if I really want to experience Vedantic bliss, what we say, what Vedanta is saying to us, that our nature is the Atma of Sachidanand, pure consciousness, then first I have to put away the preoccupation with the results, which is why Prasada Buddhi, equanimity, etc. is a very important aspect. Prasada Buddhi is the means to equanimity. Whatever comes by grace of Bhagwan doesn't disturb my mind. And even if it disturbs, I come back to equanimity quickly. So the faster I come back to equanimity, the better it is for me to conserve my energies of the mind, and that will then lead to the stamina that is required to inquire, is this entity even real? Is it just a projection of the mind? Vikshepa Shakti. And this projection is happening because there is something else, that is substratum, that is being projected as something else. The truth is being projected as something else. So what is that truth? Then I inquire into that. Who am I? This requires great amount of dispassion from the world and the seen objects and the results of action. And that requires consistent seeking of the self, that who am I? Any answer that we get for this who am I inquiry is false. Because every answer is connected to the finite equipment. Equipment only is false. How will the answer be right? This body, mind, intellect itself is temporary. So any association with that is going to be temporary, and it's constantly changing. So how can that be the truth? It is constantly changing. It is illusory. It comes, it goes. So once a person understands that, then this aham shakti, ahankara becomes weak. As of now, a person is not able to experience the self because of this ahankar is very, very strong. And one is not able to go into nirvikalpa samadhi to actually experience that, I am not this BMI, but still I am. That will happen only when I reduce the preoccupation with the results, with the objects, with the things outside, come to equanimity. Then reduce the projection of the BMI. I am Mr. So and so, the pride that one has. And then reduce the One is pride, other is false pride. Vikshepa Shakti does both these. So pride is for what I have achieved or who I am. I am proud. So if one says that I, with my hard work, have built this company and built this huge empire, and then such a prosperous family I have, and one has pride of that. Good. False, or one has pride of who I am. I am such a noble person. I do so much of charity. I do so much of seva. Because of me, so many people get employment. Whatever, at any level it can be. I'm a very strong person. I've built my whatever 8 packs. Something at any such level where I identify with who I am and what I have. Then that is a pride. But this false pride is I don't even have anything. Unnecessary having ego about that. My father may be a very rich person, a great person, has worked hard and built his whole career. What have I done? Nothing. But I will say, I am the son of so and so. Do you know who am I? I am the son of so and so. Don't talk to me like that. Just let me do what I want to do. All false pride. Individually, that person has done nothing. It just belongs to some rich person. So that's the example. So Vikshepa Shakti is both these, Ahankara and Dambha. If we cut out some of these layers of Ahankara and Dambha, then one can inquire into what is the truth. So these are a lot of layers and levels. Nirvikalpa Samadhi cannot happen unless these things are removed. The attachment to results is removed. The false pride is removed. The sense of ego born out of body identification is removed. Follow certain righteous values. Reduce the ego completely. Be truthful, transparent, forgiving. All those when one does, then the effect of this Vikshepa Shakti will reduce. Then I can handle the non-apprehension, the Avarana Shakti, and inquire into who am I really or what is the self. So that is where it is. What is strengthening and confusing the person is these two. Now that is detailed up ahead now about these two powers. Vikshepa Shakti Vijayo Vishamo Vidhatum Nisheshamavarana Shakti Nivritya Bhave Dridrishyayo Sputapayo Jalavadvibhage Nashye Tadavarnamatmani cha Swabhavat Nissamshayena Bhavati Pratibandha Shunyaha Vikshepanam Nahi Tada Yadi Chenmrit Sharthe. This is Vikshepa Shakti Vijayo Vishamo Vidhatum. To win over this Vikshepa Shakti is very difficult. Why? Nishesham Avarana Shakti Nivritti Abhave. Till the Avarana Shakti does not get removed completely. Now this is, just now we said, if the Vikshepa does not reduce, Avarana cannot be removed. Now we are saying till Avarana is not removed, Vikshepa will not go. See, that is the relationship that is there between these two. Avarana Shakti is ignorance of the self, covering the self. Then that self is being projected as something else, as a finite entity. Now that finite entity is stuck in so many other things that it wants outside. Till the preoccupation with those things is not reduced, till the projection that I'm so and so, Mr. So and so, a psychological sense of strong ego is not reduced, one cannot even inquire into the Atma. One point. So preparation to eliminate ignorance is to reduce Vikshepa. But I cannot stop at reducing Vikshepa. That's the point. So all these values, whether it is humility, amanitvam, adambhitvam, no pride, false pride is destroyed, ahimsa, non-violence, shanti, forgiveness, arjavam, straightforwardness, surrender to a higher altar, cleanliness, so many values given in the Gita or many places. Those values I can live to thin out the ego. But so many people, they tell us, Swamiji, all this Vedanta and Vivek Chudamani and this 581 verses and then Upanishad and then this Gita and all this is so much, too much hard work. We will just study. We will just be good and do good. Boss. Just live values. Don't harm anybody. At that level, if we live, that is great. No doubt that is great, but then that is that level only. One still remains as a finite jiva, just living better values, but I still am a finite entity. My ego is not destroyed. Avarana Shakti is not gone. So Vikshepa, if it becomes reduced, that is not the goal. That's the point they are trying to make here. If I want the bliss of the self, then I cannot be happy with just the Vikshepa reducing. Vikshepa reducing is the means. Identification with the BMI, when it reduces, that is the means to turn introvert, to contemplate steadily on the self. And through that go into Samadhi Avastha, and through that the intuitive understanding that I am not this, that destroys this ignorance. So reducing Vikshepa Shakti will help us to destroy ignorance. But till ignorance is not destroyed, Vikshepa Shakti cannot be destroyed fully. So whatever be the level of humility, there will still be some ego which will come somewhere. If earlier ego was coming in some 80 out of 100 cases, now it will come only in 10 out of 100 cases. But it will still come. In fact, somebody may have ego of humility itself. I am a very humble person. I don't go about telling everybody what I do. I'm just telling you because you are my close friend. But I went and donated this many crore rupees in this place. Don't tell anybody. I'm just telling you. Why? I'm a very humble person. One can have ego of humility also. So it may not come about in generally in many cases, in many interactions, but it will still come. And even if it doesn't come out with people, I still feel as a limited entity, Mr. So and so, psychologically. Functionally, that will remain, but psychologically, I still feel I am this Mr. So and so. So till that Mr. So and so is there, there will be sorrow, there will be fear, there will be so many things. Vedanta is not trying to reduce our ego. Vedanta is only trying to finish, make us realize that you are not this entity at all. And hence he says here that Vikshepa Shakti Vijayo Vishamo Vidhatum. This projecting power will not stop. It cannot be overcome, won over. Till its cause is there. Avarana Shakti is the cause. Not knowing something, projection will keep happening. I can control the quantity of the projection or even quality of projection, but projection will still happen. In the world also we see that example. It's very simple. It's 3 a.m. in the morning and my daughter has not returned. Her phone is not reachable. Friends are not answering. Now what will the mind think? It will go on projecting. What if something untoward has happened? What if some accident has happened? What if, anyone has cheated them? Something. Mind will go on projecting. Even if one says, no, I have faith in my daughter. She is strong enough to handle anything. Still the mind will project. And maybe something has happened and she has dealt with it and now she is exhausted from it. Some positive or negative. Till the daughter does not come home or doesn't pick up the phone or tell the parents by calling herself that where I am and why am I delayed, the projection will not stop. Quality of projection may change, but Projection will not stop. Same way it is that till ignorance is not removed, Vikshepa does not go. So one should not be content just by reducing the Vikshepa. Some people are so content by reducing just the effect of Vikshepa also. The moment some equanimity, little more equanimity comes with results, they are happy because for them that much is spirituality. So prasada buddhi is one level, following values, reducing the ego as another level. All those are the means. What is the goal? Goal is to remove this avarana. When that ego has become thin, then contemplate Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am not this body, mind, intellect, ego. Detach from that. So now that is why it is the next one. It says Drig Drishya Yoho Sfuta Payo Jalavad Vibhage. How to destroy this avarana? See, Vikshepa to reduce, we have spoken about. Now, with that, when we inquire and do this discrimination, that who is the drashta and what is the drishya, what I am doing right now is I am thinking that I am this seer and the outside world is the seen. What Vedanta is saying, this body also is seen, mind also is seen, intellect also is seen, vasana is also seen, ahankar also is seen. Acha, everything is seen. Then who is the seer? That's the point. Ask that question. Who is the seer? Why is all this seen? Because body is seen. From the standpoint of the seer, which is the mind, body is seen. From the standpoint of the buddhi, the emotions of the mind also are seen. I am aware of the emotions that come and go. From the standpoint of that ahankar, all the thoughts of the buddhi also are seen. And now the ahankar which is rising, that also is seen. By whom? The sakshi. That sakshi is the ultimate observer. So this is called drig drishya vivek. So inquiry is to find out who is that sakshi. Till now I thought my identity is Mr. So and so, the ego. And then I have thoughts, emotions, feelings, all those things and actions I will do, get the result. In that I've mixed up seer and seen. I think the bundle of body, mind, intellect, vasanas, ego is seer. Outside everything is the seen. Vedanta says no, no, no. Right from ahankar to everything outside, everything is seen. You are the sakshi. So drigdrishya yoho sutapayo jalavad vibhage. How we separate milk and water. This milk and water, if we have to separate, is challenging, it's not easy. Because it is two things having similar properties. They are liquids. And they will mix with each other. It is not like the rice and the stone. Rice and stone are two different type of uh, items, and they will mix up, then you can easily separate. But this milk and water are similar types of items. Now when they get mixed up, how difficult it is to separate them. In the same way, right now the drishya and drashta have become combined. So vivek is very, very crucial here. When this vivek is done properly, that I am the drashta, this is all the seen. And why should I do this drishya vivek? Because my identification right now is with the drishya. And whatever is seen is inert, is perishing. Seer is sentient and imperishable. Seer is one, seen are many. And the most important part is the seer can never affect the seen can never affect the seer. The eye is the seer, the objects are the seen. Can the objects affect the eye? No. The body and the senses are the seen. Mind is the seer. The body will not affect that. Mind affects the body. Body doesn't affect the mind. In what sense? Directly it will not. Of course, indirectly it may. But when we say the seer remains unaffected, the seen by the seen, directly it cannot do anything. Right now, because I am attached to the body, so the body is affecting me. That's the difficulty of the mind, not of the principle of seer and seen is not violated there. So the point here is that, like the film projection, the scenes of the film get projected on the projector, on the screen. Screen doesn't get affected by any of the scenes. In the same way, the seer is the ultimate seer is the Atma. Body, mind, intellect, any amount of actions that happen through it, any amount of vasanas, good, bad, indifferent, nothing will affect the seer, Atma. And I am that Atma. Right now, I have confused myself to be the seen. I have mixed it up. Now I am thinking I am this. And all this that the body, mind, intellect is going through, I am thinking I am going through. So I am suffering with that, which is why ahankara is strong. Now it comes when we discriminate. Now how to discriminate? This is where Atma Anatma Vivek is done, Drigdrishya Vivek is done, where one studies, reflects, be in the company of seekers. Then what will happen? Drigdrishyayo sputa payo jalavad vibhage. When this water and milk become separated clearly, in that way, if this drig and drishya, seer and seen, get separated, nashyet tad avaranam atmanicha swabhavat. Then this avarana shakti is destroyed. The veiling is removed. Why? Now I know I am the seer. And what is the nature of the seer? Consciousness. Seer is unaffected by the seen. Seer can remain without the seen. Seen cannot remain without the seer. So one will come to know completely one's nature is independent of all these perishable things. That is freedom. That there is no, then Avarana Shakti doesn't remain. Till I don't know I am the seer, till I don't know who I am, and I'm confusing myself to be something else, then I'm going through all sorrows and suffering. Now I know I'm not this at all. So nachyet tadavaranam atmanicha swabhavat. Now please remember, this seer and seen difference is not only at intellectual level. In the sadhana also we are doing that only. In contemplation, when one is sitting, so when we say drigdrishyayoho, that distinction between seer and seen is not intellectual information. That intellectual knowledge, when I have, then I sit in the seat of contemplation and withdraw from everything that is seen and contemplate on the nature of the self as the seer, that I am that pure consciousness, the sakshi. Sakshi means sakshat ikshate sadhanam vina, that which sees clearly without any medium. Today, whatever I am seeing is through the medium of the body, mind, intellect. But consciousness doesn't need. It is that because of which BMI can function, but it does not need a BMI. So it sees directly. That's why the Upanishad give very nice expression to understand that consciousness. Pashyami achakshuhu sashrunomi akarnaha. Consciousness sees without eyes and hears without ears. Now we say, what is this? Very weird description it is. A description of God. Those people who say that I don't believe in God and all that, I tell them how is God defined in Sanatan Dharma? Like this: sees without ears, sees without eyes, hears without ears. Or tell them Kenopanishad definition: ear of the ear, eye of the eye, mind of the mind. Already they don't believe in God. Now they will say you don't even have basic logical intelligence. Anyway, the point here is to understand that these are deeper truths. Which culture defines all this? Very few cultures will explain it like this in subtle way and such a powerful way that it is that because of which the body functions, the mind functions, the intellect functions, but which doesn't have any body, mind, intellect by itself. In its presence, everything happens, but it doesn't need electricity, doesn't need a bulb. It is there as it is. If bulb comes, then light comes. Otherwise, electricity exists on its own. Same way, Atma doesn't need any BMI. It is independent. So now once I do this Vivek where I am sitting quietly and withdrawing from everything which is seen, that is actually called Drisya Vivek. In the seat of contemplation, not intellectually. That intellectual knowledge that I am not the seer will help me to live in detachment to reduce the Vikshepa Shakti. When I am not this entity at all, what am I even protecting? How much possessiveness it is there to this body and to comforts of this body, and then the attachment to people and objects and situations, all because of Mr. So and so. I think I am this. Intellectually, when I understand I am not this at all, use this as a tool. That's all. Why bring some psychological sense of ownership here and define my self worth based on this? If I have 8 packs, I feel great. And somebody has a, what is that called? Belly. When that person feels, I don't have a flat stomach, I don't have 8 packs, I'm so out of health, out of shape. At one level, yes, you can work, have fitness. That's a good thing to do. But how does it matter? Is the condition of the body? Like what is the condition of the computer or what is the condition of my phone? How does that make a difference to me? It's a tool. I may keep the tool well. I may, you know, ensure that it is cleaned properly, taken care of, and I use the tool appropriately. Today, though, we have gone to another level. This itself is a tool which Vedanta saying, why are you so attached to this? Then we have got another tool, which is a car or which is a computer or which is a phone. And then we have a covering for that also. People derive their self-worth from their cover of the cell phone. That is so ridiculous. What type of cell phone cover they have? Some of them will have a cover which will have inside that cover diamond studded and something like that. And then one will say, flaunting it all, and then where is the self-worth coming from? Equipment of the equipment of the equipment. Wow. Covering of the phone which is being used by Mr. So and so, this body. This body only is a tool. Then a phone is a tool for it. Then that cover is a tool for that. Where our attention has gone for self-worth, self-esteem, is all coming from there. I'm giving cell phone example. Same example you can extend to so many other things. The house is a tool for me to stay. For this body to stay, the house is a tool. Inside that house, so many features I will have. So I am deriving my self-esteem from those things which are inside the house. I have Italian marble. I have this. I have that curtain. I have this from there. I have got this from imported from there. Now my self-esteem is coming from all these. So Vedanta says that you are not this at all. Then what are you bothered about so many other things? If it is there, great. If it is not there, how does it matter? Nothing wrong in striving to get any of those, but my identity cannot come from those. I am not defined by those because I'm not even defined by this. Forget those. So intellectual knowledge of Drik Drishya is to separate very clearly, I am the Drashta, this is all seen and perishable. Play with it. If it is there, great. If it is not there, very great. That detachment will start coming. Then the person can turn within. So definitely intellectual knowledge of Drashta and Drishya, so that has to change. Drashta and Drishya. Drishya has to change my behavior pattern, change my approach to life. When that extrovertedness reduces through this knowledge, I will be able to sit and then actually contemplate, I am the seer, and what is the nature of that seer? Who am I? Who is that? Which is that consciousness in me? That turning has to happen. That is called Drigdrishya Vivek properly. That when I detach completely from the scene, Nirvikalpa Samadhi will happen automatically. The reason why Nirvikalpa Samadhi is not happening is I am so attached to the scene. Something or the other of the scene I am attached to. It may be outside things, it may be people, it may be my body, it may be some thought, it may be some memory, it may be my sense of self-esteem and identity, Mr. So-and-so, ego itself. The moment my withdrawal from the scene becomes complete, then and there Nirvikalpa Samadhi will happen. Why? Because my nature is a seer. That's the best part of this whole thing. I don't have to become anything. I am already that. What I am not, I have to just withdraw from that. That's why the sadhana here is not to acquire the self. The sadhana here is to drop. Keep dropping. What? Identification with the scene, not even the scene. Now, how much more simpler can this be? Spirituality is not telling me to drop everything physically. I can drop it physically also if it helps me to withdraw in the mind, out of sight, out of mind. Idea is, suppose I'm not able to drop it physically, externally. I don't have to leave the house and leave this body and destroy it. And none of that I have to do. People, objects, things, it will be there. Let it be there. I learn to withdraw my attention. So if I'm able to drop my dependency on them, my running behind them for sense enjoyments and pleasures and all that, if I drop, I sit quietly and withdraw my attention. From everything that is seen, I drop. Withdraw the attention from all that which is seen. What remains? Atma remains. That is called Drigdrishya Vivek. So Drigdrishyayo Svatayo Jalavad Vibhage Nashe Tad Avaranam Atmani Cha Swabhavat. This avarana on the Atma will then automatically be destroyed. Which is what I am saying. If automatically avarana is destroyed, Nirvikalpa Samadhi will be spontaneous. Immediate. The moment veil goes, Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So easy, na? It is to understand. There is a curtain. You remove the curtain, what is behind immediately will be seen. Avarana is like a curtain, veiling. As you remove the veiling, what is behind will be seen immediately. In the same way, this veil of avidya, it goes, Atma's nature as pure consciousness instantly shines. Nissamshayena bhavati pratibandha shunyaha. Nissamshayena bhavati. What bhavati? Vijayo bhavati. The victory undoubtedly happens. And without any obstacle, pratibandha shunyaha. Vikshepanam nahi tada yadi chen mrishathe. When there is no more oscillation and agitation of the mind. Vikshepanam nahi tada yadi chen mrishathe. Because there are no false sense objects. In that state, when I have withdrawn from all which is seen, there are no sense objects, there is no obstacle, there is no identification with anything, no projection of false identity, then there is a victory. Vikshepa Shakti is gone. Why? Because Avarana Shakti is gone. Non-apprehension is removed, so misapprehension also goes away. Now there is no false identification with anything. What remains? Pure consciousness remains. And why that pure consciousness remains? Because that alone is actually. And that moment, I'm saying moment because limitation of language, but that aspect, that time when one realizes this, then Sarvatma Bhava will happen. We don't forget Sarvatma Bhava. This continuation is that when this person drops all false identification, comes to contemplate steadily on the self, and the ignorance is destroyed, avarana is removed, Atma alone is Madatma Sarva Bhutatma. Then that person realizes that there is only one self and all this appearance only of self, nothing else but self. So that's how it is that avarana and vikshepa, they have to be removed for this ahankar to be destroyed. And this ahankar is one of the major reasons why this nirvikalpa samadhi doesn't happen. Until nirvikalpa samadhi doesn't happen, sarvatma bhava will not come. So this is the thought process, the thought flow, the link we should not forget. Now this, what I explained in detail, is what is said in the next few verses. So let us see. Samyak viveka sputabodha janyaha vibhajya dridrishya padartha tattvam chinatti maya kritamoha bandham yasmad vimuktasya punarna samsritihi. A very nice word here is samyak vivekaha sputabodha janyaha. This viveka, which is samyak, means very well actually. So this samyak viveka here means not the viveka which is, so there is three types of vivek, not three types, three levels, let us say, depending on the evolution of the seeker. For a very novice beginning level seeker, the vivek is of what is permanent, what is temporary in the world. From there, one becomes little more advanced. So for that advanced seeker, the viveka is what is Atma, what is Anatma, and intellectually one is doing the vivek. What we just spoke about, intellectual Drisya vivek, that. Now the third level is a vivek which is spontaneous for a man of realization. For both these seekers, the beginner as well as the advanced seeker, the viveka is supposed to be a great effort, and one has to put efforts to maintain that vivek, and as a result of that vivek, vairagya will come. Then they are able to turn within. So that sadhana effort process it is. Here it is samyak viveka sfuta bodha janya. This viveka is born out of the realization. What will that do? Vibhajya drigdrishya padartha tattvam. That will separate the seer and the seen. Chinatti maya krita moha bandham. It will destroy the bondage caused by maya. Delusion and bondage. Moha bandham. Yasmad vimuktasya punarna samsritihi. And then there is no rebirth for this person who has become free. Vimuktasya punarna samsritihi. No rebirth. That is one meaning. Samsriti means no rebirth. Samsriti also means there is no identification with the changing. No more that person will think of oneself as this body, mind, intellect. The happiness of that person does not anymore depend on the BMI or the anything which is perishing. Person is experiencing every moment unalloyed bliss, unconditional bliss and happiness. The person is experiencing. So this viveka is the what viveka I was saying, when the person experiences in the state of samadhi, in that state where the seen, one has withdrawn completely from the seen. That is called samyak viveka. And it is born out of realization. Now this person doesn't have to put effort. Effortlessly that person will discriminate. Why they have to discriminate? We thought discrimination is only a preparatory sadhana. No. That's why I'm saying this discrimination that we have to do is a preparatory sadhana for beginning level or advanced level. For them, the vivek is very natural. They are living it. And what is the vivek they are doing? Drisya padartha tattvam. They know very clearly I am the seer, rest is the seen. So nothing will affect me. So they are living that vivek. Drisya vivek, they have become the embodiments of. So they don't have to practice it like we have to practice, and then we forget, and again we remind ourselves, no, I am not the seer, I'm not the seen, I am the seer. We have to do this practice. For them, it is now natural, very spontaneous. Like how in any field it will happen. Suppose a cricketer. Now Sachin Tendulkar, if he has to hit a straight drive, he can just hit a straight drive. Spontaneously, he will hit it. Now somebody else has to practice. What is the stance, how the head has to be down, how the bat must move, how it should go straight. All that one has to practice. Ball should go near the pitch. Sorry, foot should go near the pitch of the ball, whatever. So technicalities one has to practice. For a person who already done it, it's very natural. They just do it effortlessly. So effortlessly, when one is abiding in the Atma, that I am the Drashta, I am not the Drishya at all. Then what is the Drishya? Drishya also is the appearance of the Drashta only. So Drishya is also appearance of the Drashta. So there is no threat to me from the world. In fact, I see myself only as the whole world. There is unconditional love, there is tireless service, there is supreme compassion. Now that person who doesn't have this sense of small I, that person is become free. Chinati maya krita bandha moha bandham. All the delusions and bondages created by Maya, they all get destroyed. Why? Because the root cause of that bondage and delusion was this Mr. So and so. This Mr. So and so was going through all delusion, and then the Mr. So and so was feeling bound, and then Mr. So and so wanted liberation. Through the Drisya Vivek, that Mr. So and so only is a false entity. There is no real Mr. So and so. It's a fictitious entity sustained only because of our inner alertness. If I become alert, I will realize that there is no entity called this. So Chinatti Maya Krita Bandham Moha Bandham, because the entity is gone. So Avarana gone, Vikshepa gone. Yasmad Vimuktasya Punar Na Samsritihi. There is no identification with the scene after that. And as a result, no more vasanas, no more ignorance. So there is no cause of rebirth for that person. But what will happen if the person is not born? We are too used to birth and death. Our problem is that. Birth and death we are used to because we are identified with the body. And because identified with the body, we have a sense of limitation, and then we think that action is the source of getting happiness. So our question is, what will that person do after realization if that person doesn't come back again when the body is dropped? Because we are attached to body, we are attached to action, we are attached to achievement. Having gained the greatest achievement, greatest gain, what more is there? Fulfillment when it is there, ego is destroyed. Mr. So and so is not there. No restlessness to act, no joy coming out of achievement. Infinite bliss is the realization, nothing more to gain. Somewhere it has to stop or not. And we all want it to stop, but we have not thought of it properly. Everybody will keep saying, ये पता नहीं कब ये खत्म होगा, मैं तो संसार के चक्कर में फंस गया हूँ. I don't know when this will all end, and I just want peace. This too much jhanjat is there in all this. Just peace. Okay, now you have got full peace. Now one wakes up, what to do? Suppose you tell somebody that all your responsibilities I am taking away. You just relax. Now a person will feel bored after some time. Why? Because it is not the piece of the self. I am still a Mr. So and so limited entity. Now my tensions have been taken away. Now I'm wondering what to do now. Some action I have to do. Otherwise, I will keep sleeping. And how much can I sleep? So our identification is at the body, mind, intellect level. So we are not able to understand that how will that person be? No samsriti, no rebirth. So what will happen to them after realization? What will happen to them? They will realize that there is only one pure Atma. There is nothing else happening only. When birth and death itself is an illusion. When creation only has never happened, inside creation where birth and death will happen. They abide in that absolute bliss, and that is the nature of ours, each of us. So, Punarna Samsriti, that's the state of fulfillment. No more craving to become something. Samsriti means to fall and slip. Samyak Sarati, that which slips. We have fallen from our true nature, slipped and fallen. If you take that analogy little ahead, it is interesting. Now, if one slips and falls, then one gets up. As a child, when we are learning to walk, you see, we slip and we fall. We don't know to walk, balance also is not there. Just like that also we will fall. Or sometimes there is some milk or some water, something on the ground I have not seen, put the foot, slip, now fell down. Once I fall down, I will get up and I will walk. Will one ask that question that if one doesn't slip, then what one does? I have got so used to slipping that my question is, if I don't slip, what will happen? Today in the world, it is like that. We have fallen, fallen, fallen. 84 lakh species we have gone through falling, 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 falling. Now when Vedanta says there is no more falling, now question is, then what will happen if I don't fall? Funny question, no? Does anybody ask that question in general life? If I don't slip, what will I do? You will walk happily without slipping, without falling, you will just walk. Same way, without falling, I abide in the Atma. Nothing more to do. Why fall back to this world? Yad gatva na nivartante tad dhamma paramam mama. Having experienced that, there is no more returning back to the realm of ignorance. Live in that absolute bliss. What one has struggled to rediscover after going through so much pain and sorrow. When one transcends all this false identification, one will realize what? I was, I am, and I will be only one pure consciousness. There was never a fall. That's the best part. In that example of falling, there is a limitation. That one has actually fallen, and then one has got up, and then one is walking. Here, when one wakes up, one realizes there was no fall at all. The waker never fell to the level of the dreamer. Otherwise, imagine the tragedy. You sleep as a billionaire, you become a beggar in the dream. From billionaire to beggar, one has fallen. Then now when one wakes up, one says, I thought I'm beggar now. Again, one has to put the effort to become billionaire. No, but the realization is what? When I wake up, I was, I am, I will be billionaire. I never became the beggar. Unnecessarily, I thought I am the beggar and I'm going through sorrow in that dream world. Now that woken up, no more beggar. That's the state. So Punarna Samsriti means that. The state of absolute bliss. So for today, we will stop here. Any questions in what we have done today?
Yeah, Swamiji, you said that when there is complete withdrawal from the scene, Nirvikal Samadhi happens. Then what happens in the Savikalka Samadhi?
There is still the difference is there. There is withdrawal from all the other thoughts, but there is absorption in one thought. That is called Vikalpa. Vikalpa means a thought. So the mind is absorbed in one thought, and the duality exists of the thinker, the thought, and the thinking, because there is still a thought and there is still a thinker, but it is only one thought, and that's why it is called Savikalpa Samadhi. In other states, there are lots and lots of thoughts, so absorption is not there. Like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, when he thinks of Mother Kali, he, the thinker, the devotee is there, Mother Kali, the Lord is there, and the devotion is there. So his mind is absorbed in the thoughts of Kali, nothing else the mind will think, only Kali. And sometimes to that extent that he will even talk to Mother Kali, he will play, he will feed, all those things will happen. But the mind is absorbed in that, nothing else the mind thinks. But the duality is there of thinker, thought, thinking. That is called Savikalpa Samadhi. In Nirvikalpa, there is no duality at all. There is no thinker, there is no thought, there is no thinking. Then what exists? The substratum of these three exists, consciousness. So that's what is the difference.
Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.